Download the Toggle app now and catch up for free.
Kin. Brought to you by Mitsubishi Electric StarMax Air Conditioner.
Tonight on 5.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jill Neubronner. Here are the top stories on News 5. Big plans unveiled to help grow our tourism sector, such as a major new tourist development in Jurong Lake District. France begins searching for answers after a devastating fire guts the Notre-Dame Cathedral. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been pledged towards rebuilding efforts.
It is your duty to put together the strongest options for Singapore.
This minister emphasizes the importance of a forward-looking public service and lays out what that involves in building a better tomorrow. And coming up later in the program, following a recent spate of food poisoning cases at preschools, authorities say those who fall short of food safety standards will face the music. A major new tourist development in Jurong Lake District and big plans to tap technology to help the tourism sector grow. These were announced by Senior Minister for Trade and Industry Chee Hong Tat at this year's Tourism Industry Conference. He said Singapore is constantly improving what it has to offer and not resting on its laurels.
We must ensure that we keep pace with changes in the world and continue to stay relevant, to stay compelling, to stay attractive. Through new investments and startups, as well as rejuvenation here and abroad, there are plenty of opportunities for further growth. This will benefit our businesses and create good jobs for Singaporeans.
So plans are in place for Singapore's next big tourist attraction to come up in Jurong Lake District in just a few years. Now, it's all part of an overall strategy to spread tourism offerings across the island.
The Jurong Lake District is going through a makeover. Planners have envisioned an integrated tourism development as another key attraction in Singapore. The 7-hectare site is adjacent to the new Jurong Lake Gardens and Science Centre. When completed in 2026, the development will house attractions, a hotel, eateries and retail shops. There's also easy access with the Chinese Garden MRT train station conveniently located at the site. The Singapore Tourism Board says developing the Jurong Lake District will still go ahead, even as plans for the Kuala Lumpur-Singapore high-speed rail may be up in the air.
It is developing a precinct that appeals to Singaporeans. It is for Singaporeans, and along the way we are developing something for tourists as well. Right now our average length of stay is 3.4 days. So through all these attractions and developments that people want to stay a bit longer, see other parts of Singapore, they will see not just a tourist precinct, but you see a place where locals go. At the gardens, you see the housing estates across the road as well, and it's a much more authentic experience for visitors.
One tourism analyst says even with other attractions in the pipeline at Sentosa and the new investments by Marina Bay Sands and Resorts World Sentosa, more can be done to make Singapore stand out.
Now in the east we have the Changi Airport Jewel, and in the center we have the Mandai area, and then south we have Sentosa, and we also have Orchard Road. So for the west area we still don't have really big attractions to attract tourists, but I think the problem is how to build the image of this area as a tourist attraction. When they think about Jurong East, maybe they just try to go there and do shopping. So I think it's more about how to promote the area in the future after all this work are done.
The Science Centre, currently located in Jurong East, welcomed the new development as another channel to attract visitors.
Combining all our attractions from Kids Stop to the main Science Centre plus Omni Theatre. And this, in the high year, we actually exceeded more than 1 million, but in the recent time, it's more or less plateauing around 1 million. It's important for us to engage people of all walks of life, not just students, but young adults. And with the attractions here, we're also looking at families, we're also looking at tourists. We are looking at a place where lifelong learning can take place.
STB says some developers have already expressed keen interest in the new site. They can now submit their development proposals, and the deadline to do so is early November.
Well, tapping technology to stay ahead is another major push for the tourism sector. Singapore is working with new partners on this front to promote itself in key markets and find out what travellers really want. And Sentosa will become a sandbox for local businesses to test innovative new concepts to attract more visitors.
With a click and a twist, users can interact with installations like these to see snippets of key tourist destinations. Technologies like these aim to help potential tourists experience Singapore in a different way, which is why the Singapore Tourism Board is pushing digital efforts. To this end, 2 agreements were signed with Indonesia-based travel booking site Traveloka and Alibaba Group to promote Singapore to travellers from targeted Southeast Asian markets and Chinese visitors who currently account for the single largest tourist group for Singapore. Through these agreements, the Tourism Board will also gain greater insights into travel habits.
We are also looking at increasing amount of young people travelling, and their needs are quite different. How do we reach out to them? How do we engage them? It's also quite different, especially for the China market.
New concepts and technologies will also be test-bedded on Sentosa Island under a Sentosa Enterprise Initiative by Sentosa Development Corporation, or SDC. These will be to improve connectivity, create new offerings, improve sustainability and guest experiences.
What we want to offer now is in the areas of venue sponsorship, right, and maybe lower rentals for some spaces, and we can also offer support in facilitation.
And to support all these digitalization efforts, a new tech college was launched to help prepare tourism businesses for the future.
From the agency perspective, I think they're looking for solutions that can help them to enable them to be speed to market. So I think a lot of things we're trying to understand is provide the right data to help our agencies to be able to identify where are their unique customer base.
Some attractions will also get a twist using technology. As part of the 5-year master plan announced by Wildlife Reserves Singapore, visitors to the Singapore Zoo, Night Safari and River Safari will experience their tours with a new digital technology overlay and see some transformation in their animal encounters.
In other news, France is searching for answers after a fiery tragedy that has sent centuries of heritage up in smoke. The world-famous Notre-Dame Cathedral in Paris gutted from a strong fire that broke out on Monday evening. Now, the blaze quickly engulfed the 850-year-old monument, which had been undergoing extensive renovations, and what followed was a 15-hour battle as more than 400 firefighters worked through the night to contain the inferno, which consumed the cathedral's towering icon. Gasps heard from onlookers as the wooden spire collapsed, following shortly by most of the roof. Hundreds of bystanders watched on helplessly, many praying and singing hymns as flames licked away at the historic building.
People couldn't believe it. We could not just believe what we were seeing. And then the flames went on and on and on.
Beaucoup dans le monde aussi, c'est un des moments les plus visités. Donc ça représente beaucoup, c'est pas que des vieilles pierres, c'est des valeurs, c'est beaucoup de choses.
The fire was declared fully extinguished by 10 a.m. local time, with firefighters managing to save the cathedral's main stone structure and its 2 towers. The cause of the fire remains unclear, but investigators say it is likely to have been an accident. They have warned that the probe will likely take a long, complex time. Now, the authorities are now assessing how much damage was done to the 12th century Gothic building. President Emmanuel Macron has vowed to rebuild the landmark, and well-wishers from all across the globe have pledged hundreds of millions of dollars in donations. But to many Parisians, an indelible part of their heritage has been burnt away.
C'est poignant, ça fait mal au cœur pour le coup. Après les pompiers ont fait tout ce qu'ils ont pu, mais il y a des choses qu'on ne récupérera jamais.
Donc ça venait à peine de commencer, et puis voyant la flèche en feu, et puis la charpente petit à petit s'embraser, ça fait de la peine, parce que Notre-Dame de Paris, c'est quand même un monument historique, un monument qui a presque 10 siècles d'existence.
So the structure of the church is fine, but about 2/3 of the roof has fallen in. The wooden framework, which dated back centuries, has collapsed entirely. The spire fell off, and so the damage is significant and extensive, and it will, of course, take years, perhaps decades to repair, and cost millions, perhaps billions of dollars. Well, we've really seen an outpouring of generosity from people all over the world who've been contributing to crowdfunding sites that have been set up to try and help fund this reconstruction. We've seen some very generous individual gifts from millionaires here in France. We've had also tens of thousands of ordinary people putting their hands into their pockets for small amounts of money, not just Parisians, but people from all over the world who perhaps have a beautiful memory of having seen the church as it was, of having come to Paris and being moved by it, and they are now wanting to help with the reconstruction.
Now, world leaders have expressed shock and sadness over the tragedy, and many of them have offered to support reconstruction efforts. The Vatican tweeted that Pope Francis was shocked and saddened. It called the Notre-Dame a symbol of Christianity in France and in the world. Here in Asia, many leaders conveyed condolences, including our Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, who said he was deeply saddened to see the cathedral engulfed in flames. He said it was particularly poignant that this happened during Holy Week. And Mr. Lee said he shares the sense of loss of the French people over the damage to the national monument and the treasures it contained. He expressed hope that with time, a rebuilt Notre-Dame would once again fill Paris's skyline. Still ahead on News 5, regulators probe whether troubled water treatment firm Hyflux has broken any rules. Plus, looking to switch up professions, but afraid you're just not up to the task? Well, don't worry, help is on the way, as I'll explain later.
My Mitsubishi Electric StarMax aircon saves me energy and money. It's easy to clean and is so quiet.
Next on Trouble Abroad, an ex-commando's passion brings him to one of the most beautiful places on earth.
Beer is considered a mecca of paragliding.
This October, though, was a little bit different.
There was some black cloud formation behind the mountain. I'm worried about it because there is no contact with him on the radio.
On the Red Dot returns 26 April, Friday, 9:30 p.m. on 5.
Sunday. It took 4 years to film. The most intimate and intense stories of 5 great families.
Endangered species of animal on Earth.
5 amazing adventures. A truly unique cast of characters. Watch how each story unfolds. Will they end in triumph or tragedy?
The future of their dynasty hangs in the balance.
Dynasties. Sunday, 9:30 p.m. on 5.
We know where water comes from, but we seldom think about where it goes. To be cleaned. Filtered. And purified. Water goes through a lot to reach our taps. Isn't it a pity to let all that go to waste?
Mediacorp TV and Video Connect is back, bigger than ever in 2019.
Now you can unlock the power of TV and video advertising and take your business to the next level. At TV and Video Connect, we will give you the opportunity for 3 days only to take advantage of hugely discounted seminar-only advertising packages on Mediacorp, Singapore's leading TV and video network. Places are limited, so register now to secure your place. SMS TV to 73307 or log on to tvvideoconnect.com now.
They may be young, but their aspirations are big. Symphony 924's Young Talents Project. Is your child the next classical music star? There are prizes worth over $10,000 to be won, including a trip to London. Register now at symphony924.com.sg. Symphony 924 Young Talents Project, a Mediacorp initiative to nurture classical music talents.
Welcome back to News 5 now. A forward-looking public service is one that preempts future challenges on top of fixing today's problems. Minister in charge of the public service, Chan Chun Sing, drove home this point at the annual Administrative Service Dinner and Promotion Ceremony, which was attended by some 300 civil servants and guests. He added that public service officers need to actively identify potential issues and opportunities, as well as prioritize resources ahead of time.
Successful preemption for the public service may never be known or appreciated by the public. Knowing quietly behind the scene that we have done right by our country, without the public necessarily even knowing or us having to seek affirmation. In today's fast-changing world, it has become even more critical that we constantly ask ourselves if we are doing enough to preempt tomorrow's challenges.
And meanwhile, Mr. Chan urged the public service to review the way it selects and develops its leaders. One way, he explained, would be to build teams with diverse skill sets, much like how multinational companies constitute their boards and leadership teams. And that's opposed to sticking with a rigid and monolithic system. He also emphasized the need for accountability among public service leaders.
When things go wrong, we are all accountable for our responsibilities and for the men and women under our charge. When things go wrong, we never blame the whole world and ask who should we punish collectively or indiscriminately. But we all know that if we do our work conscientiously, without fear or favor, we will never need to fear the consequences.
Also at the event, the head of civil service, Yuet, said the sector is reviewing its approach to the selection, development and deployment of public service leaders to ensure they have the right competencies to serve Singapore better. This as demands on the public service grow in scope and complexity, given a more globalized and fast-changing environment. In his address, which focused on the spirit of public service, Mr. Yip also emphasized the need for accountability among public service leaders.
We must devote our leadership focus and effort to areas fundamental to the workings of our organization and to the people in it. Our leaders today need to be more globally aware, regionally attuned, grounded at home, and future-oriented. At the same time, we need stronger leadership ambition, alignment and action than before.
Ensuring career mobility for Singaporeans, especially seniors, as well as those in jobs which may be affected by technological disruption. Now, that is the priority of the Manpower Ministry this year and was revealed at its annual work plan seminar today.
The ministry's Adapt and Grow initiatives placed some 30,000 job seekers into new jobs last year. 60% were out of work, while the rest had jobs but were looking for opportunities to advance. The initiative was originally designed for workers with at-risk jobs in mind, but that's soon changing.
With the ministry's focus on career mobility, it says it will take a more preemptive approach to its Adapt and Grow initiatives, as well as broaden it to workers in jobs that may not necessarily be at risk, so that they too can upskill and progress.
We also want to work with our employers to identify those areas where sometime in the future their existing staff may be affected. and why not take earlier steps to outline what the changes will come about, and then to prepare their workers for that future.
Mrs. Teo also updated on the tripartite work group on older workers, saying it has crossed the major milestone of reaching a consensus to raise the retirement age and re-employment age. However, it's still deliberating on when the changes should be made.
The work group members have to consult the Singapore National Employers Federation, obviously have to consult the many different groups of employers. At the same time, the NTUC also has to consult the different unions. There are about 60 of them, and so this process is what is taking time.
The work group is expected to make an announcement on its guidelines later this year.
Providing lower wage workers with adequate and conducive rest areas. That's the aim of the Work Care Initiative to improve the work environment. And since the start of this month, the Manpower Ministry has made 20 site inspections on how such areas can be improved.
70-year-old Tan Cheng Hong is up early every morning to clean and prune the surroundings of Suntec City even before the mall opens. When he's done with his tasks, Mr. Tan and his team head to the common rest area where they meet up with colleagues from other departments.
比以前我们休息的地方更加好，更加舒服有冷气，也干净还有我们有这些machine的那个水可以喝。
The rest area spans over 400 square meters and is home to some 330 staff working different shifts.
It's also within close proximity to public transportation, so it's very easy for the cleaners to actually report to work and thereafter to move on to their respective designated areas.
While Suntec's owners were able to convert some areas into a conducive rest environment, space constraints in smaller premises may mean it's harder to get buy-in from other building owners, even if they recognize the advantages.
Service providers, I think, see the benefit in terms of providing rest areas too, because in terms of recruitment, they've seen quite healthy levels. Absenteeism, they've seen it drop. And I think there's a lot of intangible benefits that we could gather from initiatives like this. So I think to some extent, even for consumers and service buyers, when you have a motivated workforce, it's a lot easier to work with.
Working with its tripartite partners, the ministry will also develop a guide to help companies make available proper rest areas for workers. This will be done by year's end and ensure workers like Mr. Tan can continue with their work after a good rest.
Singapore regulators have commenced a review into Hyflux to see if the embattled water treatment firm has breached any regulations. In a joint reply to our queries, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, the Accounting and Corporate Regulatory Authority and the Singapore Exchange Regulation said they are currently reviewing Hyflux-related disclosure issues, as well as compliance with accounting and auditing standards. The authorities say the review is to determine if there have been breaches of listing rules or regulations. The move comes nearly 2 weeks after Hyflux cancelled the restructuring agreement with its former White Knight SM Investments, saying it has no confidence that the Indonesian investor will complete the deal. Hyflux has also filed a lawsuit against SM Investments in the Singapore High Court for the repudiation of the rescue deal. Hyflux said it is claiming the $38.9 million deposit placed in escrow. Up next on News 5, how important is it for the US to continue engagement in the region? And the authorities get tough on food safety in preschools after a recent string of gastroenteritis cases.
Weather report brought to you by Mitsubishi Electric.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's about to get real funky in here right about now. It's time to bust in the heat with my homie MP. Walks to the beat like a couple OGs. D to the Razali all day. Someone with love, that's his policy. Let me, everybody say S we, everybody say with love, everybody say come meet
other episodes of Meet the MP on Toggle.
She's a lawyer extraordinaire.
Without it, there can be no fair trial and no justice.
And an Uber mom.
Times 2. You're gonna meet with my boss.
And as usual, chaos erupts.
You know what? I want you out of my house.
Mommy!
It's because you are so distracted by him.
You're just jealous.
Mommy!
Sang, you know what? Why can't I just... Why can't moms have it all?
Time to transform every moment into a celebration. Download the ESPN app, and you can keep up with your favorite sports, your favorite teams, all the latest news, and even the live scores. Everything you need is just a tap away, whether you're at breakfast, in dull meetings, or on your way to a game. Because it's a platform made for all sports fans to celebrate life's greatest moments. Anytime, anywhere, all within the lines of the ESPN app.
Take your business further with the power of TV and video. Mediacorp TV and Video Connect, 23rd to 25th April, Marina Bay Sands Expo and Convention Center. SMS TV to 73307 or log on to tvvideoconnect.com.
Breeze 超强有力清除污渍，比普通的洗衣液更有效哦。你看 ，Breeze 把污渍去除得干干净净，有了它吃什么都不怕。Breeze 3倍洁净力，有效的清除顽固污渍，让你享受美食，不怕污渍。
Don't assume it's someone you know.
But if he didn't message us, then who did?
Don't share anything personal.
If he threatened you using your photos as blackmail.
Don't be afraid to get the help you need.
We need to crack this case before any other innocent victims are exploited and traumatized.
Watch how the police put a halt to the suspect's crimes.
Come in.
Also, safeguard yourself from phishing attacks on Crime Watch, Sunday, 8:30 p.m. on 5. Brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council and the following partners.
Welcome back. Finance Minister Heng Swee-keat has stressed the importance of continued U.S. engagement in Asia. Speaking at the Brookings Institution in Washington, D.C., Mr. Heng also emphasized the role played by U.S. and China in ensuring peace and security in the world.
And second, how
America's presence in Asia will remain critical for the region's peace and prosperity. All the more so as Asia's rise will lead to new needs such as in infrastructure, demand for food, healthcare and tourism, said Singapore Finance Minister Heng Swee-keat. Speaking at the Brookings Institution, a foremost US think tank, Mr. Heng said Asia's growth presents opportunities for American companies to grow new markets and make new investments.
Many U.S. businesses have a long-standing presence in the region and have significant interest in growing their Asia markets. Their business operations in Asia make a sizable contribution back to the U.S. economy, not only in terms of business opportunities, but also in the creation of good jobs for Americans back home.
Beyond Asia, Mr. Heng also emphasized the role of the US and China, two major players in ensuring global peace and security. From climate change to terrorism and technology, Mr. Heng said the world is increasingly interconnected and there will be new opportunities for countries to come together to find solutions and create new value.
As China continues to grow, some competition between the US and China is inevitable, as each nation strives to safeguard her interests and to create a better life for her people. Competition can be constructive if managed well. Competition spurs innovation and drives us to learn from one another and to be better and stronger. But competition can be destructive if it degenerates into conflict and rivalry, and we lose our focus on common interests.
He called on the US and China to come together to resolve global challenges, acknowledging that a rules-based multilateral international order has served the global community well. He said rules will need to be updated as the environment changes.
As the global economy and international order change, all countries have the responsibility to work together to reinvigorate our rules-based international order and ensure its continued relevance. This needs to be done consensually and multilaterally. Ultimately, we should not retreat from the rules-based multilateral international order and globalization.
He added that US would stand to benefit from continuing to play a leadership role in rule setting and dealing with challenges in our interconnected world to enable prosperity for all countries.
Now, the authorities are getting tough after a recent spate of gastroenteritis cases at preschools. The Early Childhood Development Agency says it will take enforcement action against centres that fail to meet requirements on food safety and personal hygiene. And the Singapore Food Agency says it's doing targeted inspections of caterers that supply food to preschools. It will not comment on which caterers or give numbers, but said checks may be carried out unannounced and based on feedback.
These step-up measures, it's, I believe, a reminder, a more concerted reminder by the authorities that we have to be responsible in producing food that is of a standard where it's fit for human consumption. And that for us, we also owe it to our clients to be responsible.
ECDA and SFA, along with the Health Ministry, will also hold a briefing later this month. It will be for food handlers and cleaners in preschools to remind them about food and how it should be properly stored, prepared and served, as well as overall cleanliness. As for preschools that work with caterers, they'll be guided on proper handling, storage and consumption of the food that's delivered. In just the past month, about 250 people across 13 PCF Sparkle Tot centres were hit by food poisoning. 31 kids had to be hospitalized. The caterer was suspended. That's all we have from News 5. Join us again tomorrow. Good night.
Download the Toggle app now and catch up for free. Tonight on 5.
Parental guidance is advised for the following program.